The crystalline halls of the Concordate station hummed with anticipation as delegates from 47 species gathered for the summit of civilized worlds. Commander Lyra Dane stood before the grand entrance, her hand resting gently on the shoulder of her companion, a creature that made every other delegate freeze mid-step. Vex was beautiful in the way a lightning strike was beautiful. Dangerous, primal, and absolutely mesmerizing. His obsidian scales caught the light like oil on water, and his amber eyes held an intelligence that most species reserved for their philosophers. He stood barely 4 feet tall, still young by his species standards, but the scars along his flanks told stories that age couldn't measure. Commander Dane, Ambassador Threll of the Vorentine Collective, clicked his mandibles nervously. The invitation specified you bring your strongest delegate. We expected military personnel, perhaps a champion warrior. Lyra smiled, the expression not quite reaching her eyes. I brought exactly what was requested, Ambassador, the other delegates whispered among themselves. The Vorentines, with their crystalline exoskeletons and hive mind efficiency, had dominated galactic politics for 3 centuries. They had called this summit to discuss humanity's aggressive expansion into contested territories. It was a trial disguised as diplomacy, and everyone knew it. A pet? Counselor Vraxa of the Therian Empire sneered, her multiple heads weaving in disdain. Humans bring animals to diplomatic proceedings now? How primitive. Vex's lip curled back, revealing rows of serrated teeth. A low rumble emanated from his chest. Not quite a growl, but a sound that made every predatory instinct in the room snap to attention. Lyra's hand tightened on his shoulder, and he stilled instantly. Vex is not a pet, Lyra said quietly. He's my delegate. And if you'd studied human history before calling us primitive, you'd know that we've always understood something your civilizations forgot. Strength isn't just about size or weapons. It's about loyalty, adaptability, the will to survive. The delegates were escorted into the grand chamber, a circular arena with seating rising in tiers around a central platform. The design was deliberate, accusers surrounding the accused. Humanity's seat was at the lowest point, directly beneath the judging eyes of the Concordate. For 3 hours, they hurled accusations. Human colonies encroaching on protected space, human ships refusing to submit to Concordate inspections, human traders undermining established economic agreements. Each charge was designed to paint humanity as dangerous, unpredictable, and unworthy of equal standing among civilized species. Lyra answered each accusation with calm precision, citing treaties, presenting evidence, dismantling their arguments piece by piece. But she knew the truth. This wasn't about law or justice. It was about fear. Then Ambassador Threll made his mistake. Perhaps, he clicked, his voice dripping with condescension. The problem is that humans are too young a species to understand the delicate balance of galactic civilization. You act on emotion rather than logic. You bond with primitive creatures and call it strength. He didn't finish. A Therian guard, emboldened by his counselor's rhetoric, stepped down from his post and moved toward Lyra. His hand was on his neural disruptor. His intention clear, a demonstration of force to put the upstart human in her place. Vex moved. One moment he was sitting calmly beside Lyra. The next, he was a blur of scales and fury. The guard's disruptor clattered to the floor, his thick arm trapped in Vex's jaws. The creature didn't bite down, not yet, but the threat was unmistakable. His eyes locked onto the guards, and that low rumble returned deeper this time, resonating through the chamber like a war drum. The room erupted. Guards raised weapons. Delegates shouted. But Lyra simply raised her hand. Vex, halt. The creature released the guard immediately, backing to Lyra's side without taking his eyes off the threat. The guard stumbled backward, clutching his arm, shame and shock warring on his face. Silence fell like a hammer. You want to know about strength? Lyra's voice cut through the quiet, steady and cold. Vex was a cub when I found him. His pack had been slaughtered by slavers, Vorentine slavers for the record. He was starving, wounded, and should have been too traumatized to trust any sentient being again. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each accuser. But humans understand something you don't. We don't see lesser creatures when we look at beings like Vex. We see partners, equals in different forms. I offered him food and he could have killed me. Instead, he chose to trust me. That was the first time he killed for me, 3 slavers who came back to finish what they started. Vex pressed against her leg. His breathing steady now, but his gaze still locked on the Therian guard. The second time was on Epsilon 7, when a concordant peacekeeping force tried to forcibly relocate a human colony. Vex bought us time to evacuate 2,000 civilians. He nearly died doing it. Lyra crouched down, running her hand along Vex's scarred flank. You call him primitive, a pet. But he understands loyalty, sacrifice, and choice better than any of you. You see, that's what makes humans dangerous to your carefully controlled order. We don't measure strength by domination. We measure it by bonds, by trust earned and given freely, by standing with those we choose to stand with no matter the cost. She stood, and Vex rose with her, a shadow made flesh. You asked me to bring my strongest delegate. Vex has fought for me twice and would do it a third time without hesitation. Not because I own him, but because he chooses to stand with me. That's a kind of strength your empires can't manufacture or regulate. It's earned in blood and fire and trust. Ambassador Threll's mandibles clicked uncertainly. This doesn't change the charges against humanity. No, Lyra agreed, but it should tell you something important. Humans don't stand alone. We never have. We build alliances with beings you'd dismiss as lesser. We earn loyalty you can't command. And when you push us, you don't just face our weapons or our ships. She gestured to Vex, whose amber eyes now swept across every delegate in the chamber. You face everything and everyone who's chosen to stand with us. So ask yourselves, are you ready for that war? The chamber remained silent. The charges were quietly tabled for further review. And as Commander Lyra Dane walked out with Vex at her side, every delegate understood something new about humanity. They had brought their strongest delegate after all,